What's up, brothers and sisters? This video is about African spirituality and Kemetic spirituality, or either or, because they are both the same and they both intertwine with each other. They just go by different names. And basically, I'm just going to share with you just an overview and a little bit about my spiritual path that I have decided to take. And my spiritual path involves going back to the African way of worshiping, or the way my ancestors did many years ago. So let me start off by saying this. First and foremost, I am not trying to convert anyone into believing or accepting my spirituality or my way of life. I'm just sharing the path and life journey I've chosen since researching, reading topics, and listening to lectures about esoteric knowledge. And according to dictionary.com, esoteric means understood by or meant for only the select few who have special knowledge or interest belonging to a select few. And basically, how I see it is that esoteric knowledge, this knowledge really did back in the day belong to my ancestors, or the our ancestors in Africa, because as most of us know, or as some of us know, a lot of us did not know this, because I was one of the ones who didn't know that before the Africans were sold into slavery and they came here to the Americas and to the islands, they had their own way of worshiping. So I'm going to get into that as well a little bit later in this video. But right now, what I wanted to say about esoteric knowledge is that the writings on the walls in ancient Egypt with the black Egyptians, we believe, or those of us that practice African spirituality or Kemetic faith or Kemetic spirituality, believe that back in the day, the black Egyptians produced the writings on the walls, and you can see that in ancient Egypt, and that knowledge that was written on the walls was basically for us, you know, our black people, until the invaders came in, and then they wanted to know what the writings on the wall meant, but really it was esoteric knowledge. It was just basically for a select few, and that was just for, I believe, the black Egyptians or the Africans. But if you do your research and your reading and your history, you can find out more information about that, but I don't want to just delve into that totally. But I would like to get into this. First off, I am not a Rastafarian, although Rastas believe and accept the Asar, Aset principles, as well as the principles of Mayat. And the principles of Mayat are truth, balance, and justice. But what they do is, with the Rastas, they put a lot of emphasis on Haile Selassie. He's the former emperor of Ethiopia, and we'll get into that a little later on as well. I am not Hebrew Israelite. The Hebrew Israelites believe in similar principles as African spirituality. The difference between the Hebrew Israelites is that they believe that they are the descendants of Abraham, and this is the Abraham that the Bible speaks of. Whereas in Kemetic spirituality, we believe that we are the descendants of Asar and Aset, because we believe that they were the first humans upon the planet. That's Asar, Aset, Heru, not Heru, but Asar, Aset, Set, and Nephthys. So they were all brothers and sisters, and you can learn more about them, and I'm going to mention a video that I did prior to this one about that, so you can learn a little more about that as well. But the spirituality that I practice focuses more on the teachings of Asar and Aset. And we, those of us who have reverted back to this way of living, believe we come from the lineage of Asar and Aset. I say revert back to because this is knowledge that we already knew. We just had to go back to our natural state of being. As far as Rastas go, they incorporate Asar and Aset into their beliefs, and as I said prior, they also believe in Haile Selassie, former emperor of Ethiopia. And basically, I have a good friend who is a Rastafari, and we talk a lot, and he's definitely been a great help to me in my newfound spirituality, and but definitely the things that we discuss and we talk about with our life journeys and our life paths and our spiritual journeys, they really do coincide. Now, I'm quite sure that there are some similarities, but right now we just focus mainly on the similar things that we believe in. And he's definitely up on the Asar set principles, so you know, he's taught me a lot too. And you know, he's like, what have you learned so far? And I share with him books I've read, he shares with me books he's read, and you know, vice versa, we check it out. But yes, he is a Rastafari, or a Rastafarian. Good brother. And also one of my nephews is Hebrew Israelite, and he broke down to me some things in his faith and some things in my faith. Some of them, they do coincide, but with Hebrew Israelites, they, like I stated before in the video, they just believe they come from the lineage of Abraham, whereas in Kemetic spirituality, we don't share that same view. We still love each other, we just don't share that same view, that's all. Okay. Now, I'm not a stranger to Christianity because I grew up in a Christian home, grew up as a Christian, and for me, that was my spirituality for a very long time. That was my way of life, because that was the first type of religion that I was introduced to. I call Christianity religion. I don't call it spiritualism, because in my opinion, spirituality, or being spiritual, that's a way of life. You live that life. Religion, in my opinion, is man-made, man-created, man rules. So that's the difference, in my opinion, between Christianity and spiritualism. To go even further and deeper into that, during my studies I found out that the slave masters who enslaved my ancestors forced the Bible and Christianity upon them. A people who already had a spiritual background, but different from the Europeans. When my ancestors were brought to America and to the islands as slaves, they were forbidden to practice the type of spirituality that they believed in and that their ancestors practiced before them eons upon eons ago. And a good explanation of this would be the movie Sankofa. And you can find this movie, I think it's about 6 parts to it, maybe a little more. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember how many parts there are to the movie on YouTube, but check out the movie Sankofa, and you can find it on YouTube if you haven't seen it yet. You can also purchase the movie. I don't know if I don't think that Redbox has it, but it's definitely on YouTube. And whenever you get a chance, you know, it'll give you more of a clear background and a clear understanding of what I mean by our ancestors having their own spiritualism, their own way of worshiping before they came to America and were enslaved. And Sankofa is spelled S-A-N-K-O-F-A. And you can find that on YouTube. um, the slave owners did not understand the Africans' way of worship. They, the Africans, honored their ancestors, which is a part of what I now practice. They practiced voodoo or vaudou. And in this day and age, voodoo has gotten a bad name. There are negative aspects of voodoo as well as positive aspects. And then they say that, well, you're performing magic. And this is something that Aset did when she wanted to conceive a child with Asar, which is within the ancient Egyptian myths. And when you say performing magic, really you're also performing voodoo. So the majority of us that know anything or heard anything about voodoo, we know the negative aspects of voodoo, you know, putting hexes and curses on people. And that is true. Voodoo has that negative tone to it, or that negative connotation to it, but it also has a positive. And I'm going to share one of the positives of voodoo with you. When I was in college, an African professor of mine mentioned voodoo in one of our class lectures, and he brought up the fact that yes, there are negatives in voodoo and there are positives, but he said that people think that voodoo is all bad, but that's not true. And years later, when I started reading and researching and studying, I found that to be true as to what he was saying, because he stated that for example, there are women who cannot conceive. They want to have a baby, so they'll go to the voodoo priest or voodoo priestess, and they will get help from the voodoo priest or priestess, and then they are able to conceive. So that's just one example of a positive connotation of voodoo. And also, like if someone is sick or they're ill, they'll go to a voodoo priest or priestess, and they will ask for their help, and the voodoo priest or priestess, they know what to do and what to make up in order to give them the person to make them better. So those are just some examples of positive vaudou, which is the original name for voodoo. And even to this day, although in Africa, many Africans practice Christianity, they have gone away from their traditional spiritualism and their traditional ways, and now they're practicing Christianity and Islam. But some have not diverted from their traditional ways of worship. And an example of that would be the Dogon in Mali, Africa. The Dogon refused to accept Christianity because that wasn't their way of life. It never was. And they refused to accept Islam because that wasn't their way of life either. So they moved away from where they were into the mountains of Mali, and where most of them reside today, so that they could continue to practice their way of worship. And another interesting thing about the Dogon, since I'm on the subject of Dogons, of the Dogon people, the Dogon tribe, is that they knew about the star Sirius before scientists, or before they even discovered it. So that right there within itself is amazing. So to get more information on that and more of the story, please, if you have time and if you're interested, look that up. Type in, you know, in any of the, any of the internet searches on Google, you could type in Dogon people and the Sirius B, and you can find that information on that. But it is a very interesting story. And so the spiritualism that I practice, if you will, is African spirituality, or also known as Kemetic spirituality, and also Kemetic science falls under that as well. But it's interesting. But it's so much information, I can't put it all in this video. It's so much information that I just can't tell it all. So I could just share just some things with you, and maybe I haven't even touched the surface yet, but it's just so much information that's out there. Now, one thing that I would like to make clear is that African spirituality or Kemetic spirituality is not a cult. So please don't refer to us as a cult. We are not going out sacrificing human beings or anything crazy like that, because we honor life, we honor our ancestors, and we honor and respect the universe and nature. Okay? So please, please, please do not consider us a cult. Okay, so what is the Asar Aset society, and what do we believe? Now, within the Kemetic faith or Kemetic spirituality, and within African spirituality, comes the Asar Aset society. Now, with the Asar Aset society, like I said prior in the video, this video, that we believe we come from the lineage of Asar and Aset. And you can check out the story because it's a very beautiful story, interesting story, or myth, mythology, African mythology. So you can go to any of the search engines on the internet and type in Asar, Aset, and you get a wealth of information, so on and so forth. So it's great information, in my opinion. Alright, so what is the Asar Aset society? What do we believe? I will answer the latter part of the question first. We believe that there is only one creator, God, Goddess. And I have no problem believing that God is both male and female. To get a better understanding of this, please watch a video I posted on YouTube titled Information About Kemet, and it's in parentheses, Ancient Egypt. So once again, the title of the YouTube video that I posted, it's called Information About Kemet, or Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, and in parentheses is Ancient Egypt, and you can find that here on my my YouTube page, or you can type in Who is SND, which is one word altogether, and my channel will pop up, and then you can find that information about Kemet, Ancient Egypt. And then I go into further detail about Asar, Aset, and about the Creator God Goddess, what we call, or what the Black Egyptians called Atum, who they call Atum. Now, our African ancestors were polytheistic, meaning they believed in many gods. This is not to get confused with the Creator. Remember, there is only one Creator, God, Goddess. Those of us who practice African spirituality call the Creator Atum, A-T-U-M. And let's see, many different African tribes call the Creator by many different names. For example, the Yoruba in Nigeria, or those that still practice their traditional religion, spiritualism, excuse me. For example, The Yoruba in Nigeria call the creator Olodumare. The Dogon in Mali call the creator Amma, that's Amma. Rastas refer to the creator as Jah, and Hebrew Israelites use the term Yahweh. And most of us know Muslims use the term Allah. Africans use the term gods and goddesses, whereas Christians refer to them as angels. We ourselves are gods and goddesses. This reminds me of the song Mary Mary, where they talk about the God in me. Well, if you think about that, truly, you are a god. You are a goddess, and that is what is within you. And this is what the Black Egyptians taught long ago, you know, that we were one with the universe, and we could be one with ourselves. And they really taught the Mayat, the principles of Mayat is what they taught. And once again, Mayat is balance, truth, and justice. And in here in America today, you know, when they talk about law, you see the balance scales. Well, that was taken from ancient Egypt, actually, and those balance scales represent Ma'at, truth, balance, and justice. To understand more about the goddess and gods concept, you can search under Google or any internet site for gods and goddesses of Kemet, which is the original name for Egypt. And Kemet means land of the blacks, and many people who don't want to accept that or don't want to believe that ancient Egyptians were black, they will say, well, they meant black land. Like, I'm like, well, what's the difference? It's land of the blacks, black land. It pretty much means black people, the Kemet. And even some books describe the Kemetians or the ancient Kemetians or the ancient Egyptians as having burnt skin. Now, if that's not black, I don't know what is, and everybody back then couldn't have been sunburned. So, anyway, moving on. So, if you'd like, you can further your studies there by researching or Googling that information, and or you can type in Yoruba gods and goddesses, so on and so forth, and it'll take you to different things. But like different African tribes call the creator by many different names, but there's one thing that African traditional spiritualism has in common is that one God, one creator, God, goddess concept, or that one God concept. And another thing that they have in common is that they worship the gods and the goddesses, and they honor their ancestors. But I've noticed that since I've been studying African culture, and I got into it, you know, wanting to learn more about my people and where my descendants came from, I've learned that throughout the traditional African spiritualism, they all have a high regard and high respect for the ancestors and the gods. Okay, so moving on to what is the Asar Aset Society, because we just covered some of the things that we believe in. So what is the Asar Aset Society? Well, the Asar Aset Society was founded by Ra-Un-Nefer Amen in 1973. Its principles focus on some of the topics discussed earlier on in this presentation. For more information, you can Google it. Let's see, later I will give you some titles of books that you can check out, as well as a list of master teachers, lecturers, that you can watch on YouTube as well. And a little more about the Aset Society and Nafar Amen. He also wrote a book. What is the title of that book he wrote? Can't think of the title of the book, but it's a book that is, if you're just coming into this knowledge, it would be very difficult for you to understand. So I really wouldn't recommend that book, but I do want you to know that he is an author, as well as the founder of the Asar Society. And the Asar Aset Society can be found in cities such as Atlanta, Charlotte, North Carolina, New York, Chicago, Milwaukee, Orlando, and Philadelphia, just to name a few. And if you live in one of those cities, or one of these cities, I encourage you to please go and find out the location of where the Asar Society is, and just check them out, and see if it's something that goes along with your spirit. If you're Christian, definitely wouldn't go along with your Christian beliefs, but to be truthfully honest with you, some of the things that are in the Bible, the writers adopted and adapted some of the information from ancient Kemet or ancient Egypt, but it's just distorted. And when I say distorted, it's just twisted around and changed to benefit the Europeans, I should say, or their way of life. And also, I know I'm just babbling on and throwing things out here, at you at once, but check out also the Council of Nicaea. That's Council of Nicaea, Nicea, and it'll tell you how the Roman Catholics created the Bible and some of the things that they put in there, and I mean, it'll tell you a wealth of information about that. And I'm going to share with you now some master teachers and lecturers who can definitely help you understand better about the Council of Nicaea. Is the late Dr. John Henrik Clarke. Please check out his video on YouTube. There's a video called Religion versus Spirituality. That's Dr. John Henrik Clarke. John Henrik, and that's Henrick, Clarke, Clarke. And also on YouTube, type in Dr. John Henrik Clarke, Council of Nicaea. He explains that totally. And Dr. Ben Jochanan, and that's Jochannan, also known as Dr. Ben. That's Dr. Ben Jochanan. I believe I pronounced that right. Booker T. Coleman, Dr. Phil Valentine. He's a good brother too to listen to. Here on YouTube, type in Metaphysics of the Bible, where he breaks down the Bible. And some things, Dr. Phil, he's out there. And what I mean by out there, it's like I said, if you're just coming into the knowledge, he might be a little more advanced. Let's put it that way. His teaching is a little more on an advanced level. I can understand what he's saying, but I have the hardest time trying to break it down in layman's terms. But the late Dr. John Henrik Clarke breaks it down in layman's terms, and Booker T. Coleman as well, Dr. Booker T. Ashra Kwesi, also a good person to look up. Ashra, Ashra Kwesi, Kwesi. Brother Bobby Hemmett, that's Bobby. Bobbyhemmitt, and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Cress Welsing, Welsing, and Jill Pookrum, Pookrum. And these are just a few people. I'll consider them master teachers, lecturers, that you can listen to, and they can break things down for you very, very well. So, in conclusion, there are so many different religious and spiritual beliefs. How do you know which one is the right one? That's easy. You have to choose the right path for you. Whether it be religion or spirituality, there is a difference, as I stated before. And if you don't believe in spirituality or religion at all, that's still a choice that you believe in, and it's a choice that you made. So I can only say that's totally up to you, what you accept as real and what you accept as truth or being true. And but as for me, I would rather believe in African spirituality than to practice a religion that was forced upon my ancestors. And Africans were the first people on the planet. History confirms this. You know, National Geographic tells you about the mitochondrial Eve, which began when she was in Africa. That's one of the scientific term, but history confirms this. So why would I not want to worship the way they did, since they were the first civilization on the planet, and the first humans? So, just something to think about. And also, before I close completely, I want to share some books with you that I've read. And one book that I found interesting is Ancestor Paths. And this gives you some indication or clue on how to worship your ancestors. Don't forget your ancestors, the ones that have come before us. You know, it's called Ancestor Paths, and it's by Aladokun. I believe that's how she pronounces her name, Aladokun. And I don't agree with everything in this book. I think that some things that she put in this book was just for pure entertainment, but then there were other things that I really found to be of importance in this book. So I even highlighted some stuff in here, but this is a good book. It teaches you how to worship your ancestors. Another book is the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Book of Coming Forth by Day, Book of Enlightenment by Muata Ashby. And I also mentioned this in one of my earlier videos. This is also a good book, the Book of Coming Forth by Day, Book of Enlightenment. And a good read, Egyptian Proverbs, also by Muata Ashby. The Mystical Philosophy of Ancient Africa. About that, and this is the author here, Muata Ashby. And last but not least, this is by Gerald Massey, Ancient Egypt, the Light of the World. And this is I want to say European brother. I call him a brother because he knows the truth about Africa. And you can take a look at this book as well. This book in itself is pretty thick, but can't read it all in one day. But Ancient Egypt, the Light of the World. So another good book that you can check out and that you can read. And also the YouTube videos that I've shared with you and I've told you about to check out. And please don't forget, please take a look at my video if you haven't already here on my YouTube page. Entitled Information About Kemet and in parentheses is ancient Egypt. So that should hopefully introduce you to the Kemetic spirituality, the Kemetic faith, or African spirituality. I think that we as African Americans, we really need to get back to our roots. And I feel like it's a change because how I got started into this was through one of my cousins. He introduced this way of life to my mother and myself, and all he did was just give us like a rough overview like I'm doing with you guys, and it wasn't even this to this extent, this extensive. Just we started reading and researching on our own, and we found out so much. But yeah, check out my video, information about Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, or information about Kemet, ancient Egypt, and you know, and you can just begin your research there, and like I did. So hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. Love you all, and thank each and every one of you for subscribing to my YouTube page. I really appreciate it because there's a lot of things that I would like to share and continue to share with you guys, and thank you so very much. Hotep.